Welcome everybody to this edition of MeteoMark Weather. We're going to start off with the tropics. I am pretty much on vacation mode here, so we're going to be looking at a quicker update than normal, but I'm going to fill you in on everything here. So keep these updates going as often as I can. Look at this tropical moisture. We got a couple areas. This one really trying to flare up here. We'll see if that has any chance of developing here. Also, some thunderstorm action flaring up around Jamaica, Dominican Republic here. And the Lesser Antilles looking clear with Trinidad and Tobago. You got some showers and thunderstorms south of you here. So looking out here across the MDR, yeah, things look pretty interesting. Big tropical wave action here. We actually got 3 areas we're going to be watching as these flare up out here. All right, so we're taking a look at the tropics here. As you can see out here, there is not much happening across much of the Gulf, East Coast. But look at this out here. This is what we're going to turn our attention to over the next several days, a couple weeks. You can see we have some showers and thunderstorms kicking up with these big, strong tropical waves. Would not be surprised if one of these comes on the radar of the National Hurricane Center. It is moving a little bit more towards the northwest. So as we head the next couple days, let me just back this up here. So as we go through the rest of the 29th into the 30th here, you can see some showers and thunderstorms moving through the Lesser Antilles, parts of Central America. Jamaica, Cayman Islands look pretty clear until around the 31st, where you see some showers and thunder showers kicking up here. Now through August 1st, we do have this area of low pressure coming off the U.S. East Coast. We'll continue to watch it here. We have these tropical waves, this one in particular. Also another big, strong Cape Verde wave here moving off the coast of Africa. As you can see, in time, we're going to be watching a couple of these. This one in particular is going to approach the Lesser Antilles through about August 4th and 5th here. We could see this try to spin up. Also, we're watching the potential here for a stalled frontal boundary. 2 areas of potential spin-ups here. As we head through the 4th into the 5th, you can see that moving up the U.S. East Coast and out to sea. But here we go. We got another tropical wave moving through the Western Caribbean here. Also some very strong tropical wave action out here. So that is what we're going to be looking for as we head through August 7th here. So we got quite a bit in the way of activity. We're going to watch the Central and Eastern Gulf open up here. Look at, we're just lining up. Now let's go across Central Africa here. We're going to watch these waves just line up. Look at this. These are really strong tropical wave action. We're going to watch this big one right around the 8th and the 9th move off the Cape Verde region. And as we go across the Caribbean here, northwestern Caribbean, flare-ups of showers and thunderstorms, you can see around the subtropical high really getting anchored here. That's going to push all these tropical waves west-northwest here. Here's another one coming off the Cape Verde Islands. And as we watch through the 10th into the 11th of August, big gusty one moving through Grenada here, Trinidad, Tobago, watch out. Showers and thunderstorms moving northwest towards Jamaica, the Cayman Islands through the 12th. And look at this, another stalled frontal boundary off the U.S. East Coast. Prospects of potential spin up here, we'll have to watch. And a strong tropical wave emerging off the coast of South America here, Colombia. That's going to be heading into the Western Caribbean as we head into that second full week of August. All right, so let's take a look at our European run here. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits. I'm going to show you the big picture first before we zoom in to, the Gulf and the Caribbean here, the Western Atlantic. So here we go. There's a couple areas of low pressure that do try to flare up. There is a lot of wind shear and dry air, though. That's going to be the big problem here with any sort of development. But look at how strong these are. As they move off the coast, we're going to be watching that intertropical convergence zone here through August 2nd and 3rd. Look at this. This looks really, really impressive. I'm going to talk about this here in the Western Atlantic in just 30 seconds to a minute. But look at these lining up through August 7th. This is what I'm really concerned about. I would not be surprised going into that second week of August if we start to see some tropical storm formation out here. So that's something we're going to have to keep a very close watch on as we head through Saturday, August 9th. Watch out. Look at this. We may have a tropical storm here approaching the Lesser Antilles through August 12th. All right, here we go for the Western Atlantic Caribbean. Yeah, we're getting some flare-ups of showers and thunderstorms Tuesday across Jamaica, Honduras, Belize, Dominican Republic. Watch out through the Lesser Antilles as well. This heads up to the northwest, and as you can see, Honduras and Belize continue to get the lion's share of the rainfall. Now, that's not going to say that the rest of the north central Caribbean islands also getting some scattered showers here. Even the Virgin Islands. Yeah, you don't have a rain hole this week. It looks like you'll see some spin-ups here with some of these tropical waves. Look at a strong tropical wave right around August 2nd here. This is going to be one to watch. Look at this, heading through Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. It gets pretty heavy as it starts to cruise a little bit more towards the northwest. Also, just like the GFS, look at our stalled frontal boundary from the Central Gulf all the way off the southeast coast. We'll have to watch for any potential development. Also, showers and thunderstorms flaring up around Jamaica here August 5th into the 6th. So we'll watch out here. All in all, we're looking at a much more active weather pattern across the tropics. I think August is going to be a lot different here than it was in July. Look at this, spinning up here through the central and northern Lesser Antilles through August 9th and 10th. We start to pivot this more towards the island of Hispaniola, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico into the Turks, Caicos, right through Jamaica. This could be some very heavy rain and thunderstorms for you. Look what's brewing here, though. We may have ourselves a tropical storm here heading into the Eastern Caribbean right around August 12th. So for our sea surface temperature anomalies, yeah, it's still warm off the U.S. East Coast. Very much warmer here up along the Mid-Atlantic and New England. Also, Central and Eastern Gulf warming up. Look at this around the Lesser Antilles, starting into the Western MDR. That is really troubling. Also, the Cape Verde area warming up as well as that Sahara dust does thin. And the Western Caribbean here. We're looking at rainfall amounts surging through next weekend. Look at Jamaica, right around 20 to 40 millimeters. Dominican Republic and Haiti, you could see some areas close to 60 to 120. As we surge through the first and second week of August, look at this. Parts of Jamaica, upwards of 115 millimeters, especially the western and central portions. A look at Dominican Republic here. We're pushing in excess of 200 millimeters, some areas 244. Parts of Puerto Rico could see upwards of 3 to 5 inches. And then Honduras and Belize, yeah, we're looking at the same here. Some areas approaching 200 to 300 millimeters. And here we go, looking at the European run for rainfall amounts through this week, all the way through next week. And very similar to the, actually, let's make sure we actually have the European run. There we go. So as we go through this week, you can see, look at Jamaica, Honduras, all the way through Belize. Look at this, though. This takes us through August 12th. Yeah, Jamaica, a little bit lesser than the GFS, but you get the idea. 60 to as much as 100 millimeters. Even Dominican Republic here, some areas approaching, in some of these higher elevations, 178 millimeters. Puerto Rico, a little bit less here, 1 to 2 inches. Locally higher amounts. Honduras, 155 millimeters here. Belize, 149. Look at Cancun up here, almost barely anything, though, as well as the Cayman Islands. And as we head into the Eastern Caribbean here, yeah, tropical wave action mid to late week, moving through the Lesser Antilles, parts of Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico here. We're going to watch for a big tropical wave, especially next weekend into the first week of August. And then we get these surges of tropical waves. Look at this, moving across towards the Virgin Islands come the second week of August. But look at this, Trinidad, Tobago, some of these areas approaching 100 millimeters all the way up the island chain. Some of you will eclipse it with some of this heavy tropical wave action. And here we are looking at the GFS in the Eastern Caribbean. Yeah, all the way through next weekend, a surge in tropical moisture with this tropical wave activity. And we'll be watching for any development, especially the first and second week, especially of August. We're going to watch for surging rainfall amounts through the Caribbean islands here, the Lesser Antilles. Look at this, GFS going crazy with Trinidad Tobago area. Some areas approaching 150 millimeters all the way up the island chain here, depending on where you are. The eastern-facing areas of the Lesser Antilles, upwards of 160 to 170 millimeters here. All right, as we look into the Eastern Pacific here, we're going to be looking at 99E right in this area, likely to become our next tropical storm, potential hurricane here. As we go through time, it is going to be a fish storm through the 30th, 31st, and eventually August 1st here. You can see them lining up. Look at this out here. We're going to be watching some of this tropical storm hurricane action, Iona here, as well as 2-C, likely to become pretty well south of the Hawaiian Islands here. So nothing really to other than some wave action kicking up. That's some great news here. But there it is. Right into the Central Pacific we'll be watching. And watch these storms flare up here right around August 7th. This hurricane might come pretty close to the Mexican coast. We'll keep an eye on it here. Now, in the Western Pacific, we are watching a couple storms here. You can see we have Tropical Storm Crosa here. Been talking about this one for quite some time, all the way back to next week. Now, the GFS guidance here, taking this west of the envelope guidance, so kind of putting maybe extreme eastern Japan into play, but it does start to wobble it further north and east here, which is some great news for Japan. Now, as we go through time, we're going to be talking about Tropical Depression Kome here, which actually could flare up as a tropical storm and target Shanghai over the next several days here. You can see through the 29th, 30th, it's actually accelerating, so it could become a very formidable tropical storm and come barreling right into Shanghai here. We go right up to the Korean Peninsula. Pretty dry through Seoul here, all the way to Tokyo, Osaka, these areas. But watch this. That moisture heads westward here, and then we open up the possibility here of typhoon season really starting to open up here with the intertropical convergence zone. Look at the Philippines, though. Much of the central southern Philippines looking dry here with the exception of the northern Philippines. That's where we're getting into some of this heavy tropical moisture. Japan stays very dry through South Korea as well. You see much of the moisture missing these areas until about August 5th. You know, this is probably going to line up 6 to 10 days later across eastern North America, so look for mid-August here where we might wetten things up here across eastern North America. But look at the Philippines. We're actually clearing out here, and you don't see that very often this time of year. But we're watching the intertropical convergence zone pretty far to the north here as we head through August 11th and 12th. We see another storm trying to kick up here in the southern Japanese islands. And here we are getting into Asia, the Western Pacific. Look at this. Taiwan's going to be the big area for some very heavy rains, 200, 400, 500 millimeters. Look at Japan, though. Most of this is not falling until we get into like that second week of August. So that's when things start to moisten up. A lot of these storms missing you out here. Even the central Philippines look pretty dry. Northern Philippines, a little bit up here, 150 to 250 millimeters. All right, so our future radar here, this is what we're looking at. Yeah, we got some clusters of showers and thunderstorms this evening. I just want to back this up just a little, 7, 8, 9 p.m. here. Look at these cells. Yeah, we could have some gusty showers and thunderstorms. Some of them could be severe. Our next MCS system forming right across Minnesota through Wisconsin through 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m. here. Look at the East Coast, though. It is dry, but very, very warm. Now, as we get through the 29th, look at these splash and dash showers and thunderstorms from the Florida Panhandle all the way up into southwestern Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio. We're going to watch for these to flare up through 8 p.m. on Tuesday. So watch out for that. We could have some gusty showers and thunderstorms, some gully washers there. That is those typical slow-moving popcorn thunderstorms, so to speak. The biggest severe weather, though, is going to be with these MCS systems moving around that ring of fire through the 30th at 2 p.m. There you have it. You see we also have some, look at this, across the Adirondacks, north of the New York State Thruway in particular, northern New England, showers and thunderstorm action. And look at this along the Gulf Coast. We're going to flare up, you know, this little stalled low-pressure system, tropical moisture. I wanted to show you going into Monday evening here. This is crazy, the amount of moderate risk here across southern parts of Minnesota, eastern South Dakota, and northern Iowa. That is crazy. That's a strong storm system. Now watch this. As we head on into Tuesday, you can see the shower and thunderstorm action continuing across the plains. Severe weather threat a little bit less here, but still a slight risk. And then as we get on into Wednesday here, we actually have a marginal risk across the I-95 corridor here, Poconos, Catskills, Hudson Valley, central and eastern parts of New England here. Also out here into parts of the eastern plains and the upper Mississippi River Valley. All right, so picking up with our future radar left off, we're picking up with the rest of the week here through the 30th. You see we're going to see some mesoscale convective system action here through the Midwest into parts of the western Great Lakes. This heads us into July 31st. You see we do have a frontal boundary. It's going to become the focal point here as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. So we might see some surge of moisture, especially for North Carolina and Virginia, right around the 31st here. So we're heading on into Wednesday night and Thursday. Maybe some big flare-ups of shower and thunderstorm action as this gets cranking as a coastal low off the coast here. We're going to be watching high pressure build right in behind it. So all of this tropical moisture is going to hang out across the southeast, South Carolina through Georgia, and the north central parts of the Gulf Coast here. We're going to watch this flare up. Could we have a tropical system form out of it? I did touch on this in my tropical update earlier in the video, but here it is. August 5th into the 6th, we're watching these spin-ups just kind of line up off the coastline here, high pressure. So yeah, all in all, we're looking wetter through this region. As we head through the first and second week of August here, you can see this moisture surging. Now look here, August 8th, we start to get these MCS systems really starting to propagate through Ohio. The Western Ohio Valley as well through the 9th and 10th. And you can see the surge of tropical moisture just continues. South Florida getting in on the act, also the Appalachians interior portions as this moisture kind of flings off the coastline here through the 11th into the 12th. You can see we're trying to set up that ring of fire pattern with that MCS systems riding around the northern periphery. All right, so here we are with the European run, picking up where our future radar left off as we continue through Tuesday, the 29th here into the 30th. You can see most of the moisture hanging out around the north central Gulf Coast. Mesoscale convective systems moving through the Midwest here. Those are moving towards Ohio, and eventually some shower and thunderstorm action for Wednesday into Thursday across parts of the Northeast. We also get another area of low pressure here on Thursday the 31st, so watch out. European model going much more pessimistic across Pennsylvania, Ohio. I'm concerned about some severe weather as well. Here's the Appalachians, and then we move this low pressure to the coastline, starting to fill in the East Coast by Friday morning here from the Outer Banks, all the way up into New Jersey, parts of New England, as we get a coastal low bombing out here a little bit. So we'll watch out for that. Heavy rain, gusty winds, and we'll also have to watch out. We could have a tropical spin up here try to form over the next week or so. But here it is through August 3rd, Sunday. Next Sunday, you can see we may have something trying to form here, at least a lot of tropical moisture across Florida, and we also get some MCS systems here across the Central Plains and then eventually up towards the Midwest and Ohio here. So watch out. Through the 7th into the 8th, we're watching about a much more active weather pattern as we get to the East Coast. You see this blocking high moves well into the Canadian Maritimes. That's also bringing this system up. Lots of deep tropical moisture through August 8th. So we'll watch for the potential. And look at this. Another big storm moving across the plains. We'll watch for this as we get more severe weather dropping down through parts of the South. And then the tropical moisture hanging out across Florida. Look at this, though. Tuesday the 12th, we may see some big mesoscale convective systems here. So that's something to really watch as we get these dropping out of Canada. All right, so liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European run this week. Look at this. Yeah, we could see this is right around, unfortunately, on the European run. This is later Thursday night and Friday. Look at this. Poconos, Catskills, Hudson Valley. Some of you may see close to 4 to 5 inches if this verifies through parts of the Midwest. Ohio Valley, 1 to 2 inches. North Central Gulf Coast as well, 1 to 2 easily. And then look at as we get into the first and second week of August. Yeah, down and through parts of the Gulf Coast. Some of these areas, 5 to 8 inches of rain. Much of this rain across the Ohio Valley and Northeast, 2 to as much as 5 inches. If this does verify, this would be a little disturbing. Northeast Pennsylvania, 6 inches. 5 to 6 inches. So we'll watch it here. And here's our GFS run. Look at this as we continue to go through time. Let's make sure we have our latest GFS. So as we head throughout this week into next weekend, the GFS very pessimistic here with North Carolina and South Carolina through southeastern Louisiana. Look at this. 2 to 4, maybe 5 inches. And then as we continue through time, look at this. Let's just zoom out a bit. You can see all the way through the second week of August. Yeah, GFS is really going crazy. South Georgia, 10 inches. South Carolina, 17 inches. So it is plausible that we could have something tropical, at least a lot of deep tropical moisture here. GFS is notably much drier in parts of the Northeast than the European was. Something to watch. So for our upper air weather pattern, our European model going crazy with our heat dome, it does start to break down with this trophiness. Come this weekend into next week, you can see this is going to be some welcome cooler air here with this trough. Around the base of this trough, and you can see we get some storminess here across the Central Plains here as well. We do get a little bit of a ridge trying to develop back east again through August 7th and 8th, but we do start to see another trough kicking in here across the east. So I think cooler times are ahead for the most part here, and less stormier times as well. And looking at our NAO index here, yeah, we are looking slightly positive here, going much more positive as we head into the second week of August. That would mean less blocking and quieter weather. And let's take a look at our MJO index here. Yeah, we are active. Active phase of 7 heading into 8 and 1 through the mid part of August. That would mean active weather conditions across eastern North America and the western Atlantic. All right, looking at a Canadian weather forecast here. We're watching that storm move across Quebec. and the Canadian Maritimes through the 29th into the 30th. So as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, look at the high pressure, though. This is unfortunately some bad news for the wildfire situation, especially Alberta here. Look at how dry it's going to be. We're going to get a timestamp here through the 31st into the 2nd. Look at this. High pressure is pretty dominant for the most part. We do get some spritzels through parts of the Rocky Mountains, and then more significant moisture here out ahead of, the southerly flow. So that may get some of these storms kicking up with some good rain. Also way in the northern Canadian Maritimes here. But look at this. Right along the U.S.-Canadian border. It looks pretty quiet this coming week. Through the 3rd into the 4th, look at this. We get a flare-up, a big severe weather situation across Alberta. Southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba might flare up here as this low pressure pulls right up across the central prairies here. Look at through the 6th into the 7th. You really do start to see some action up here into parts of Ontario. Quebec will start to get these MCS systems really bubbling up here as well. You can see we just zoom in through the 8th and into the 9th. This upper level low just hangs out across the Hudson Bay here. So yeah, we open up the corridor here for some intense rainfall action. Also out here in Alberta, the Rocky Mountains, that's some great news. Getting some spritzels of rain here. That's going to help with the wildfire situation as we head through the 12th and into the 13th. Look at this. British Columbia looks pretty dry with the exception for near the U.S.-Canadian border. With this system, look at this. This is going to wind up in a 994 millibar low. This could pull some much-needed moisture here across the prairies. All right, so getting into Canadian rainfall amounts here. Yeah, obviously, through the first week here, it looks pretty dry. But as we get into that last part of the first week of August into the second week, this is where things start to moisten up. Look at southern Alberta, even central Alberta here. Manitoba, Saskatchewan. We could see some areas approach 125, 150 millimeters. A little bit lesser amounts southern Ontario and Quebec here, but look at up here into northern Ontario and Quebec, 60 to 120 millimeters. So for our temperatures here, this is going to be the huge story. Look at these look at that. Mid to upper 90s here into parts of the I-95 corridor here. This is getting to be a broken record all the way back through the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes. Look at these hundreds, even areas in the upper 90s. It is just awful. Into Wednesday, July 30th, we do start to see evidence of those 70s spilling eastward. We're going to have to deal with a couple more days, though, of 95 or higher with those heat index values. But look at this for Thursday, July 31st. Look at those 70s. Oh, that is so nice. That's going to be welcome into Friday. Look at this. We're actually going to get down to 80 for a high here in Southern Virginia. That's some great news as well. Look at these 70s widespread everywhere. Midwest, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes. Into Saturday, August 2nd here. Look at this. Some 70-degree readings down into parts of the Appalachians here in Western Virginia. That is some great news. Into Sunday, August 3rd. Look at this. Yeah, we rebound a little bit, but look at Atlanta, Georgia, 79 degrees. All right, extended forecast, Binghamton to Scranton's Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Look at this. This is a beautiful week. Obviously, we will start out hot Tuesday, mid to high 90s. Watch out those heat index values. Wednesday, though, we get some showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Watch out for some damaging wind, large hail potential. Into Thursday, we get those scattered showers and thunderstorms as that frontal boundary just pushes to our south. An area of low pressure will move along it. Might get some overrunning precipitation. But look at this for Friday. Beautiful sunny skies, 70, mainly upper 70s through the weekend, and a little bit warmer on Sunday. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.